was his birthday on Tuesday, so we're...
Oh, how old did you turn on Tuesday? 5?
Hi, Carter. Carter.
Go ahead and choose your heart, okay? We have our regular hearts and we have our beating hearts that have a heartbeat when you push down on them. A beating heart? Okay, hang on to your bear and your beating heart. We're going to do our hearts together at the end, okay? Go ahead and step on the pedal.
I can really do so it's right now. Oh, it's right now. Airplane in the night sky, like shooting stars.
Here we are at the Zell Family Car Wash. The Zell with special guests, the Ball children. When the Zells have the Ball children over, we don't just have fun, we put them to work. Let's wash that car.
All right, guys.
Looking good, guys. Looking good. Ideally. So it's getting you have to work harder to find 10 eggs.
Are you talking about like all together? Where?
No. You have 10 eggs to find plus your golden egg. Nathan has 10 eggs to find plus his golden egg. There are 60 eggs total plus 6 golden eggs.
Wait.
How could that be any
No,
less clear?
but I'm talking about our plastic eggs or real?
All plastic.
All plastic.
Oh, okay.
That's the other difference.
How could that be any?
That's they are all plastic with candy inside. The golden egg. You guys remember the golden egg? It's big yellow with the blue squigglies on it.
It's cosmic or something.
There are some bigger yellow eggs, but if they do not have blue squigglies, that is not the golden egg. That's just a regular.
Nothing but net. One more time. Ooh! Ah, yeah!
Auntie Anna has cooked the winning cookie for her annual cookie contest at work. Now I'm excited about this cookie, guys, and here are my taste testers. What do you think? Has Auntie Anna won any of these cookie contests before?
No!
Is she a loser?
Yes!
Is she gonna win this year, people?
Yes!
What do you guys think of her cookie?
It was amazing. I loved every bite. It was amazing. I loved everybody. It was awesome. I couldn't eat one more. I like it because it's
Yay! Auntie Anna! Auntie Anna!
Coffee. Bunny rabbit. Pogo stick. Yeah.
Oh, seriously.
Talking on the phone. Eating. Phone. Pocket phone. A walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
Walkie-talkie. Talking, massage, chat, massage,
What is he gonna be doing?
He ain't gonna get it.
Oh.
Pie eating contest. Yeah!
Nice.
Nice.
Or 12 tricky.
Swimming backwards, backstroke, elementary backstroke.
Feel on the tip of his fingers. It's right in Michael's grasp. Oh my God, he gets it! That was literally mine.
Nothing. I didn't say anything. Yes. Carter, what did Michael say about you?
What are you doing? Why are you filming?
Yeah,
Because Michael
She's
said
not
some
content
words.
to live life. She
Michael-
wants to document life. She was
She's
born
like
to be a
getting a
journalist
close-up
and she missed her calling.
I'm grateful that we can gather to honor Michael today. Today is particularly painful for all of us. We miss Michael. We miss being with him. We feel his absence. We agonize over the pain that he was in and the depression that he suffered from. We miss the events that he won't be there for. The high school dances, the graduations, the birthdays, the summer get-togethers. One author said, losing a loved one to suicide is one of the most painful experiences that we can experience. We may come together in a lot of pain, but that makes me all the more grateful that we can gather online, gather in person, so that we can remember, honor, and celebrate and grieve Michael and give thanks for his life. So that we can share stories because Michael loved good stories. So that we can laugh because Michael had an incredible wit with an edge of sarcasm. So that we can cry and weep because we miss him so much. But we do something more. We gather to experience God's love and grace for Michael and for each one of us. So I want to invite you to pull up the Kudo board as well as chat online. The link should appear somewhere in the chat, and you can write, share pictures, upload videos. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be a little bit messy. That's just life. But it's a way for us to gather as a community, just to be and sit in our grief and our healing together. For those of you online, I want to encourage you to share your video. We actually can see it here. We actually see all your faces, but you get to see each other's faces. And it's a way for us to be together even despite all of COVID. And so thank you for sharing your video online. If you have to step away for a minute because we started a little bit late or you need to go somewhere, we will record this and you can watch the rest of the service at a later time. So let's take another deep breath in, a deep breath out, and let me pray for us. God, as we breathe in, we are grateful for your presence here with us. Grateful that we can gather together with friends and family to celebrate the life of Michael Ball. We give you thanks for each moment that we spent with him, the gift that he was to us. Thank you for the love and joy that he spread so contagiously to all of us. And God, we celebrate and give thanks for your resurrection, in which we have hope. God, I pray that you just send your spirit down among us, that you'd comfort the family and friends and our community in our time of mourning, in our grief, that you'd meet each one of us here today, that we would experience your grace and your mercy. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. I'm going to invite Anna to come on up and share Michael's life.
For nearly 25 years, the Ball and Zell families have shared life together. As the size of our families grew from just the four of us, John, Jen, Ken, and I, to at one point 6 kids, 7 years and younger, so did the depth of our commitment and covenant to journey with each other. It began with giving each other date nights every other week to preserve our marriage and sanity with raising 6 kids, and over time grew into countless shared meals, birthday and adoption day celebrations, game nights, sleepovers, vacationing together, battling cancer with Jen, and now this. To Michael, I was his Auntie Anna, endless supplier of cringe-worthy moments. And to me, Michael was my sweet, snarky, lovable Michael. I am honored to share Michael's life story as written by his father, John Ball. The following are John's words expressed through my heart. Remembering Michael Ball, a brief account of his life. A fierce competitor with a sweet heart is how one basketball coach described Michael. That characterized him so well. I have a photo of Michael as a newborn, smiling at his mom as she held him. Babies don't usually smile that young, but it felt like a genuine connection and communication from his heart. The way Michael acted his whole life certainly matches that early memory. Michael James Huerta Ball was born in Pomona, California in 2005. He joined his older sister, Susanna, and brother, Nathan. They filled our home with boundless energy and our hearts with boundless joy. Mike practically grew up at the Zell's house, playing with his friends, Carter, Kennedy, and Jackson. Uncle Ken and Auntie Anna were second parents to him, and he went over whenever he could. At age 2, he made new friends at Temple Beth Israel Preschool. Yonatan, Frechette, and Michael became inseparable. We loved watching the boys play imaginatively for years. Michael didn't have his siblings' athletic prowess, but Grandma Sandra remarked, "You just need to find the right sport for him." We enrolled him at Goltz Judo, and he loved it. A fellow dad observed that every time he was thrown to the mat, Michael always bounces up smiling. In Claremont youth basketball, he didn't get lots of playing time, but he never gave up. At age 10, his mom wanted to ask the coach what Michael could do to get more minutes. "It's okay," Michael said. "The other kids are better than me, and they deserve to be out there because they work so hard." Michael worked as hard as anyone, and when his Uncle Ken drafted him, it was a coup for Michael and eventually for the team. Coach Ken taught him to use his strengths, his size, and his brain. The coaches would match Mike against the other team's leading scorer, and he shut them down every quarter. That year and the next, Michael helped his team win the championship. He was crucial to our success, Coach Eric Gammons later told me. His performance in the playoffs, when everything is magnified, was clutch. He was coachable and super smart. Michael had a special connection with his mom and often turned to her for comfort and understanding. When she was diagnosed with cancer in 2016, he was only 11. During her illness, one of his lifelines was friendship. He flew to Texas alone to visit Yonatan for a week, a huge deal since he never liked sleepovers. He threw himself into activities and school, not only earning straight A's, but learning with passion. He loved to tell me what he was learning in history, English, and cooking. He planned to master Spanish and graduate with State Seal of Biliteracy. He joined Scout Troop 407 and loved camping, knot tying, competitions, and building fires. When he became patrol leader, he took leadership seriously. His mom's death in 2018 overturned Michael's entire world. From a young age, he had always hated pain and avoided sadness. Now he struggled deeply. To feel connected to her, he sat in her reclining chair and watched some of her favorite shows, especially The West Wing and Parks and Rec, over and over and over again. When his troop elected him senior patrol leader, Michael led the weekly meeting of more than 70 scouts for almost a year. Adults often told me they were amazed at what good 90-minute meetings he led for such a big group. He was in the troop for 5 years and completed all but 2 requirements to become an Eagle Scout. He talked passionately about the unique Eagle Scout project he had dreamed up, a phone app as a one-stop location with resources for youth who struggled with suicidal thoughts and other mental health problems. I honestly don't think Michael thought he would ever need such resources himself, but he cared deeply about the kids around him who did. As a freshman at Claremont High School, Mike signed up immediately for speech and debate. A month later, he brought home 2 medals from his first event, and more awards followed. This year, he and his partner qualified for a special invitational and had plans to compete at the state and national level for the next 2.5 years. It combines so many loves: competition, reading, politics, global events, writing, speaking, and persuading. He particularly loved talking with friends during the long bus trips. He was a loyal and devoted friend. Carter Zell said, "I love that Michael was always down to play games or watch a movie, to be spontaneous, and he was always able to call me out." Yonatan wrote, "Michael was the best friend I could ever have asked for. He was a really genuine person who wasn't afraid to be straight with people, and I love that. He was the best kind of person to know." I know many people could say the same. Other people's needs mattered to Michael. His freshman year, he wrote a speech on reforming our education system to benefit the disadvantaged. In this year's speech, he argued passionately for prison reform. He dreamed of attending Harvard or Georgetown and then law school. He wanted to become a public defender, to advocate for the marginalized and oppressed. Then COVID hit. Michael took all the precautions seriously. During our father-son special times, we ate takeout from Panera or Cafe Rio while parked in the car to avoid spreading the virus. He tried to stay connected through texting, FaceTime, and playing nightly video games with friends. He did everything he could to stay positive, throwing himself into online tournaments, classes, mentoring 2 junior hires in speech and debate, and writing articulate and impassioned articles for the Wolf Packet, his high school newspaper, and he loved that class dearly. But I know the lack of social contact ate away at his heart. I consider Michael to be a COVID casualty. He didn't contract the virus, but he told me, I need to find better ways to deal with all the stress and pain. He was so competent and intelligent that I think he felt that he could make it through on his own. His siblings and some friends expressed concern and asked him to get help, but he told me that dealing with feelings would just make things worse. On January 24th, Michael did his laundry, finished his homework, and diligently studied for finals the following day. He asked me to pick up his contact lenses so he could finish driver's training. When I hugged him goodnight, I think he was online with some friends. He told me, I love you, Dad, like he did every night. No one knew that would be his last day of life, and everything indicates to me that he had no idea of that either. I'm convinced there's nothing else that I, his family, friends, teachers, or anyone else could have done to prevent him taking his life in a moment of being overwhelmed by pain and stress. He knew he was deeply loved, and he loved others deeply. I and so many of us will miss Michael's caring heart, his competitiveness, friendship, intelligence, argumentativeness, humor, leadership, and his profound love that touched so many people.
Thank you, Anna. We have a few videos from a few of our community friends that knew Michael well.
Hi, everyone. We are Dave and Elisa Bosley, 2 of Michael's godparents. So we have known Michael since before he was born. And Michael and I share a birthday. We were both born on May 25th.
I love in this picture seeing Michael and Susanna attending Hamilton. It seems like exactly the sort of thing that Michael would love, with its mix of history and politics and arguments. And I watched it again this past weekend, and one of the lines that George Washington sings really jumped out at me. He sings, "Let me tell you what I wish I'd known when I was young and dreamed of glory. You have no control who lives, who dies, who tells your story." And that's one of the most important things for us right now as we remember Michael, that for every single one of us, Michael's life and story, how he lived, is part of our story.
And there's 2 stories that I will always remember about Michael. The first is Settlers of Catan. Michael loved board games, our family loved board games, and Settlers of Catan was our game of choice. And we loved to play that with Michael. The best part about it was that he always loved to talk smack. He'd tell us how he was going to kick our butts and how his strategies were superior to ours in all possible ways. And the second is duck and goose hunting. Both Michael and Nathan have wanted to hunt with me since they were kids. And I was so proud of them when they finally passed their hunter safety course and came out to hunt with me in Colorado on the South Platte River. And Michael's first day hunting, he shot this enormous goose. He was ecstatic, I was ecstatic, and what are we going to do with it? And he loves this goose summer sausage that I make. So he said, hey, can we make it into the goose summer sausage? So that trip, we made a huge batch of goose summer sausage from his goose.
And on the way home from somewhere during that last hunting trip, when they were out here, Michael and I talked in the car about speech and debate. And he tried to explain to me all the nuances of speech and debate, and even did a little impromptu demonstration of one of the speech and debate techniques. And it was amazing and wonderful to see his enthusiasm and already his budding talent for it. I want us to be encouraged to keep telling stories about Michael, not just today, but whenever you think of one. It will be painful to do that, but don't let that stop you. And our stories honor him in grief for his death, but even more in gratitude for his beautiful life.
Michael was so full of life, which is why we will mourn and grieve the hole in our futures where he would have been. And we have hope that in the great mercy of our Lord Jesus, that Michael still lives. Blessings to you, John and Nathan and Susanna, and to all of you who loved Michael.
God bless you.
Hi, my name is Jim Brogan. Just want to say a couple words about Michael. I knew him for a long time. I had the privilege of coaching Michael in soccer for a number of years, and the challenge of coaching against him in basketball. And one of the things I remember most about Michael is he was just so coachable. And those of you that have been involved or are involved in youth sports will concur. I think that's the highest compliment that you can give a kid. He listened. He always did exactly what you wanted at 100%. Gave you everything he had, and that kind of attitude filtered down to the rest of the kids on the team. So just a great leader, always the kid that you wanted on your team. And I'm gonna miss that. But every time I see that in another kid, I'll be thinking of Michael.
Hi, my name's Keaton Bunker. Michael was my best friend, and I just wanted to share his story from when we were working on the debate speech together. We were going to work on it over at Honnold Library, and for some reason he just brought fudge. I don't know why, but I just show up and he's already sitting there with a giant box of fudge, because that's just something that he would do. And he would randomly bake stuff for me like that, just randomly out of the blue, and just give it to me. And then I just really remember that day, because then when we were actually working on the speech, we were just joking around, and it was the first time I had heard him try and do like a funny voice. And one of the voices he did for a character, I couldn't stop laughing, and then that made him laugh. And we were kind of just sitting there. And then just working on it with him, and all the little memories, even just from that day, like when a bee chased me and he just laughed because I was running away from it. Or when afterwards we went to see a show at a theater. And it just, moments like that I want to remember, because they were the moments that were him. And it it was really happy, and that's what I wanted to share.
We'll have a few more of those in just a moment, but first we're going to hear Into the West, sung by two of Michael's friends. It's a song that comes out of the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. And if you know Michael, he loved Lord of the Rings. And so it seems very appropriate that we reflect on his life, but also even in the lyrics of this song as in the hope what we have for Michael. And so I'd encourage you to both reflect on Michael's passing, but also you can visit the Kudo board and post things there. The link will be in the chat as well. But just take some time just to reflect.
Lay down your sweet and weary head. Night is falling. You have come to journey's end. Sleep now. Dream of the ones who came before. They are calling from across a distant shore. Why do you weep? What are those tears upon your face? Soon you will see. All of your fears will pass away, safe in my arms. You're only sleeping. What can you see on the horizon? Why do the white gulls call across the sea? A pale moon rises. The ships have come to carry you home. And all will turn to silver glass. A light on the water. All souls pass. Hope fades into the world of night. Through shadows falling out of memory and time. Don't say that we have come now to the end. White shores are calling. You and I will meet again, and you'll be here in my arms, just sleeping. What can you see on the horizon? Why do the white gulls call on the water, gray ships pass into the west.
As a private educational consultant, I've worked with hundreds of high schoolers, preparing them for and helping them apply to college. And Michael Ball was one of the most self-motivated teenagers I knew. I remember vividly once I was visiting LA from the Bay Area and hanging out with Michael for the afternoon. He was a middle schooler at the time. I was a little worried at first because what middle school boy would want to hang out with an adult he barely knew? And I thought it would be super awkward. But no, Michael was chatty and open and really warm. He told me all about his Boy Scout troop and the camping trips we were planning. He asked me all kinds of questions about college. He told me, "Auntie Shin, I'm going to go to whatever college gives me a full scholarship." I was so struck at the time because I had never met another middle schooler who was as forward-thinking and articulate with an adult as Michael was. Most of the middle schoolers I met were forced by their parents to meet with me. Well, Michael evolved over the years, and his focus and sense of purpose also honed in. I remember talking to him about him wanting to become a human rights lawyer and to fight for social justice and equal rights under the law. We talked about how to prepare for law school, and he sometimes emailed me about which programs to join or activities to pursue. It was a real joy to me to watch him blossom and enjoy activities that really suited him, like speech and debate and writing articles for a school paper. I will miss watching Michael develop into an excellent lawyer who cares for other people and for justice. Most of all, I'll miss watching him grow into the person God created him to be. I was reflecting on what would honor him, and I think, like Michael, we can all become people who are eager to learn, open to others, and pursue goals that reflect our strengths and our own unique God-given purposes.
Hello, my name is Vincent Ruzan. I want to say thanks to God for allowing me to be present in this service. I want to thank the Ball family for allowing me to participate in the service. And I also want to thank the Donner family for contacting and keeping me informed about this service. So first and foremost, I would like to offer my most sincere condolences to the Ball family for your loss. I also want to extend my condolences to all of the friends of Michael who are present in the service and who are grieving. Michael was perfect. I know that perfect doesn't exist, however, I can only attest to my experience with Michael. I never had to fuss with Michael to take out the trash or to do the dishes and things like that. So I recognize that he wasn't perfect, but our relationship was perfect. And here's what I mean by perfect. When he came around, I lit up. He was all smiles because he wanted to learn, he wanted to know, he wanted to share. He was bright-eyed, smiling, inquisitive, investigative, engaging, intelligent. He never let on that he was hurting or facing challenges. I came to find out that he was, and I did my best to be present for him and to be there for him in any way that he needed me or wanted me to. Yeah, it hurts. And I miss you, Michael. I'm asking myself, what good can come from his loss? And what crosses my mind is, I wish he was here to hug. I wish he was here to laugh with. I wish he was here to share with. So what good can come out of this? We can be available We can laugh, we can hug each other. We can check in on each other a lot more often than we do. Let's see how people are doing, even if they look like they're doing great. We can be available. So what good can come out of this? It is said that the best ability is availability. And I just want everyone to know that I promise to be available to people. I promise to be more available. I will miss you, Michael. I will always miss you. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, I'm Addie, and Michael was one of my best friends. I've been struggling to film this because it's been hard to find a way to be concise about how beautiful Michael was in a 2-minute period. So I think that the first thing that comes to mind is that Michael was a brilliant writer. I had the absolute pleasure of editing some of Michael's articles on our school newspaper. And I always looked forward to reading just because it was his writing, but they were also the easiest to edit because I didn't really have much to say besides, wow, this was amazing, because he was just so talented. And his intelligence and his wit and his humor will always live on within all of us. I remember one time we were on the way to a debate tournament and Michael fell asleep on my shoulder on the bus ride down. And when we got into the parking lot, I woke him up and I shook him a bit and I was like, Michael, we're here. He went, 5 more minutes. And I went, no, Michael, we're here. And he went, oh shit, I have to debate in 5 minutes. And it was so funny and we were laughing so hard. And then of course he went and won. Because that's just Michael. Because of course he did. But beyond that, Michael was the type of friend to leave cookies at your doorstep. He was the type of friend who would text you, no matter how late it was, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., just to say, hey, how are you doing? He was the type of friend to make up weird nicknames for you and text you random things throughout the day just to remind you that you're a beautiful person. He would call me sparkling starfish or amazing unicorn, or just text me hey, I bet you $1 million you're looking gorgeous right now, or have I told you how amazing you are? You're like a walking Greek goddess. There's just so many random things that Michael has texted me that it's just it's so Michael, but it was never with any ulterior motive besides to remind me that I was loved. And with the cookies thing, he would text me and ask me if it was even okay for him to make the cookies in the first place. And I'd be like, yeah, Michael, of course you can make cookies for me. But of course he thought to ask because it's Michael. And he would leave the cookies on my doorstep and just text me hey, cookies on your doorstep, I love you. Because he was just that type of friend and that type of person. And I think that if I take anything away from Michael among so much, it's that he was so good at showing the people around him how much he loved them. And I hope that we can all be a little better at showing the people around us how much we love them and how deeply rooted our care for them is, because that is something that Michael was just so good at. It was the small things with him, and the love. And Michael, I love you. I always will. And thank you for everything.
My name is Ken Zell, and I've been asked to share a brief message with us this morning. To Michael, I was Uncle Ken. And as with all the ball kids, I've known Michael since he was a baby in diapers. And of all the ball kids, I just have to say that Michael was the most challenging one to change his diaper. Mainly because of his man-sized poops that he would do from a very young age. For some reason, my wife, Annalisa, always seemed to be busy doing something else when it was time to change Michael's diaper when he was over at our house. But the other thing that was challenging about Michael is that he had kind of extreme skin sensitivity. And so whenever you would go to change his diaper, there was things that were red and swollen and creams you had to put on, and it felt like performing a delicate surgery. You saw in a lot of the photos Michael playing games. He loved games, and that was one of our favorite activities as our two families would get together was game nights. I remember one night in particular, we were playing reverse charades. And the team that I was on, we got the clue moon, and in the sort of excitement of competition and without really thinking about it, I jumped around and bared my backside. Not realizing that Michael was the one who was supposed to be the guesser. And I just heard this gasp. And all of a sudden, Uncle Ken, right? Exclamation. And he just fell over laughing so hard. He couldn't believe his Uncle Ken had done that to him. And from that day forward, anytime we play reverse charades, Michael always would bring up that story. I did have the privilege of coaching Michael in basketball, but full confession, I was not that excited to draft him at the beginning. Michael is not a natural athlete. That video you saw of him shooting that free throw, and you heard his dad say nothing but net. The truth is, whenever Michael was shooting, it was just as likely that there would be nothing but air, or my personal favorite, nothing but backboard. But boy, was that kid coachable. He was determined to hold his own on the basketball court. And as Coach Brogan shared, he just absorbed everything that you told him as a coach. And I watched him go from being this uncoordinated, sort of clunky kid on the court to a kid who really understood how to play the game of basketball, how to use his size and his strength, and how to play smart. He became my secret weapon. I would put him on the best player every quarter that Michael was in the game, and Michael would just play suffocating defense on that kid and frustrate him to no end. And then when the quarter was over, Michael would come walking back with just a big goofy grin on his face. But I did learn that I could only play Michael one quarter at a time. You couldn't play him 2 quarters in a row because he worked so hard when he was out on the court that he would exhaust himself by the end of the quarter, and I would have to give him a break. By the time Michael finished Claremont youth basketball by his 8th grade year, not only had he won 2 championships in back-to-back years, he was awarded being on the all-star team. That's how much he had grown, how much he had learned in his commitment. He was a special kid, and I loved him. And this past month, trying to come to terms with Michael's death has been the most difficult thing I think I have ever faced. I've had a lot of different feelings, as I'm sure many of you have had. Shock, confusion, guilt, and anger. I was surprised by how angry I felt in the days after Michael's death. I wanted to grab him and shake him and yell at him and say, how could you hurt us like this? How could you rob us of the joy of having you in our lives? And I felt stuck in that anger until 2 friends reached out to me in different ways and offered some very helpful things. The first was my friend John, who shared with me in a beautiful email about his own severe battle with depression earlier in his life. It almost cost him his life. He survived and is now thriving, but he said that he remembers what it felt like. And this is what he wrote. He said, I have vivid memories of the despair, of the helplessness, of hopelessness, and the feeling of being pulled down into a confusing whirlpool, spinning faster and faster into a darker and darker place. It was very, very frightening. Reading these words made me realize that unless you have battled depression, you can't really understand what it's like. It was unfair for me to remain in a place of anger. What I needed to do was move in the direction of empathy and compassion. And to that end, another friend helped me greatly by sending a book titled Bruised and Wounded, Struggling to Understand Suicide, by a Catholic priest named Ronald Rolheiser. The author articulates with great care and tenderness how suicide can be understood as a disease that takes people out of life against their will, that it is the emotional equivalent of having a stroke or a heart attack, or being afflicted by any other fatal disease. And the people who fall victim to this disease almost invariably are very sensitive persons by nature, who end up, for a myriad of reasons, being too bruised to be touched by others. Now, I have found this perspective to be very helpful because Michael was that sensitive person. I think you could grasp that from all the photos in the videos, as well as from the sharing that people have done. Just as his skin as a baby was more sensitive than most on the outside, I think Michael's spirit was more sensitive than most on the inside. It's what made him such a great friend. And as I've thought about this, some memories have come to mind. And from a very young age, Michael was a snuggler. Michael loved nothing more than, before he was going to bed, to snuggle with his mom or his dad. And in the morning when he would wake up, the first thing he would do was go in and snuggle with his mom in bed. And because of that, for years, though all the ball kids would sleep over at the Zell's house, Michael refused to do so. He wouldn't do it for a long, long time because I think he would miss out on what he needed, that snuggle time with his dad and especially with his mom. Michael was the youngest of his siblings as he watched his mom battle cancer for 2 years before it finally took her life. In any situation, it's hard to measure the toll that kind of thing takes on children, and especially on one whose emotional pain receptors were dialed up higher than most. I think that was true for Michael. In the aftermath of losing his mom, Michael had the hardest time talking about his feelings. Our two families were intentional about making space to grieve together the loss of Jen and to share our feelings with one another about how we were doing. But Michael was always the most reluctant to participate. He would report to his dad after these times that he didn't see the point of them because they just made him hurt more. And I think as kind of a survival mechanism, I think Michael began to put up a wall around his pain. Now, I think that we all have two tanks inside of us. We have a love tank that gets filled with love. And Michael's love tank was overflowing. He had a family who loved him. He had friends who loved him. And Michael felt that love. He knew he was loved. And his love was overflowing, and that's why he had so much love to give to others. And Michael knew that that was a gift to be treasured. I'm grateful that Michael's love tank was always so full. But we also have a second tank. We have a pain tank. And with pain tanks, when they start to fill up, you have to find ways to drain the pain. You have to find ways to let it go. Otherwise, if it fills up to overflowing, that's when life gets really hard. And I think that's where Michael struggled most. It was as if I think the bruise on his soul was too painful to let anyone near enough to touch it. I think he was afraid that if he let himself feel all of the pain, if he let anyone in, he would feel all of that and it would overwhelm him. And so he did his best to lock it all inside him and keep everyone out of that room in his soul. And that included locking God out as well. About a year after Jen died, Michael told his dad that he had decided that he needed to take a break from God. Throughout his young life, Michael had many genuine and meaningful experiences with people of faith, experiences of God and being in the presence of God, and was really thoughtful about what looked like to be an emerging faith in Jesus. But when his mom died, I think that Michael didn't know how to let the God who had disappointed him into the pain that loss created. And so he locked God out as well. Understandable? Yes. But it's also important that we understand how God felt about that. Now, of course, I can't know the mind of God, but there's a story from the Gospel of John that I think reveals God's heart towards those who hide behind locked doors because of fear and pain. The story takes place just after Jesus has been killed, and his disciples, having just lost their leader and dear friend, gather together behind a locked door. They're huddled inside this room, surrounded by their fear and their grief and their pain. And suddenly, Jesus appears among them and ministers love and peace to them. And in mere moments, their situation is transformed from pain to love, from fear to peace. The locked door can't keep the God of love from reaching those who need him most. Message. All right, well, let's finish it. The locked door can't keep the God of love from reaching those who need him most. I think we underestimate all too often God's heart of welcome, the distances that God will go to demonstrate his love to those who are most in need. I believe that in Michael's darkest moments, God was there. And when Michael woke up on the other side, I think Jesus had walked through that locked door and was waiting for him, ready to embrace him, ready to wash away his pain and fill up Michael's tank with love. And I like to imagine that the way that happened was Jesus welcomed Michael in to a nice warm snuggle. That is the God of love. And for the rest of us, as we cope with the loss of Michael, our pain tanks are full. And so we have to find a way forward. I think one of the best ways that we can love each other is we can help share each other's pain. I think when we share pain with each other, that is one of the most loving acts that we can do, and it fills our love tank and it lowers the level of our pain tank. And so as we move forward from here, my encouragement to all of us is let's shamelessly share our grief with one another. Let's help carry each other's pain. Let's be intentional about that. And in doing so, more than any other way, I think we reflect the heart of God.
We get to hear from a few of the family members. Thank you, Ken, for those words. And it's just as a way for us to begin to share the pain that we're in, we get to hear from those who loved him and were closest to him. So if you're thinking about sharing, I'd encourage you to kind of think. But I think, Carter, are you up for starting us off? Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carter Zell, and I've been close friends since Michael ever since we were born. So here we go. Michael Ball. Where do I even start? There were so many different qualities about Michael that there's no way I could fit them all in, but I'll try my best. As you've already heard, he was an awesome debater and a very accomplished Boy Scout. He loved the 49ers, and I'd always get an earful from him when his Niners beat my Rams. Michael also loved to play Minecraft. When he was younger, he made a Minecraft YouTube channel and called himself James. We'd always make jokes about that. His go-to shot while playing horse was the bank shot, and whenever he made it, Nathan would always get so annoyed. He was also my #1 cornhole partner, and even though he was always inconsistent with his throws, I loved having him as my teammate. Whenever I said what's up to him, he would always say the sky, but it was the stupidest thing, but that's just the kind of person Michael was. But there was another side to Michael that I was never able to see. The side of Michael that was suffering through so much pain. And it truly hurts to know that someone I cared so deeply about was going through so much and I never even knew. And what hurts even more is that he felt that he had to take on all this pain by himself and that he thought this was his only option. But even though there was another side to Michael that he kept hidden from me, I'll choose to remember the Michael who I knew. The one who always cracked dumb jokes. The one who loved to talk football with me. The one who always called me out for cutting in the lunch line. The one who always told me to shave. And the one who I loved like a brother. That is a Michael that I'll choose to remember because deep down, I know that's who he truly was. It's still so hard to fathom that Michael's gone, and at times it doesn't feel real at all. Sometimes I feel angry that he did what he did. But Michael, at the end of the day, I'm always gonna have love for you, man. I'm gonna miss all the fun memories we shared, and I just wish we could have made more. I miss you so much, bro. And tell Aunt Jen that I miss her too. Rest easy, Michael, until we meet again.
My name's Josh Huerta. Michael's my cousin. I felt like writing something, but I just couldn't come to it. I tried my best, but I'm just gonna explain what Michael was to me. When we were little, I remember being in Grandma's backyard, playing Cowboys and Indians with Nathan and Susanna. And me and Nathan were always running around, like, thinking what our gun was or what we were doing. And Michael was imagining some language that he was coming up with for us. And he was the one that was the smart one, figuring something out. And I remember doing that. I remember Saturday mornings watching Clone Wars with Nathan and Michael in Grandma's house. We were always having fun. When I first heard the news, that's all I could think about was just watching Star Wars with Michael or Lord of the Rings or him coming over on Christmas. And Michael was just the best kid ever, smartest kid. Every time I was having trouble with school or something like that, I would just think man, Michael could easily do my homework for me. This guy, I'm grades ahead of him, but he could easily do this. Or Michael could have been anything. Michael could have been president. He's the smartest person I know, and I'm gonna miss him so much. I love you, Michael.
My name's Nathan. Thank you. My name's Nathan, and I'm Michael's older brother. And I just kind of first want to say, I don't want to be standing here talking about this. I don't want to be standing at my little brother's memorial. This is the last thing I ever wanted to do. But that's just here we are. So I'm just going to make the best of it and tell just kind of who he was to me. I shared a room with Michael for 13 years. Man, he was a crick in my neck, let me tell you. Like, I would see him every day when I woke up and I went to sleep, and there was nothing I could do about it. I was constantly reminded when he got into high school that he easily had a 4.0 while I was struggling with my basic, like, Algebra 1. Yeah. He was so much smarter than I was, but he really, I gotta say, he really made me, like, who I am today. He challenged me in so many different ways that I just want to say thank you. I would not be the same person today if it wasn't for him. I never felt like I was a big role model in his life as his older brother. I always wanted to be, but it just never felt like that. But it was the other way around. He was a big role model to me. I saw how he lived his life, how he treated his friends, how he treated other people. And that's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be like my younger brother. So now that he's gone, which sucks, it sucks so much, I wake up every morning and I strive to be more like him. And I strive to learn more like him. So Michael, I miss you, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Nathan.
Hey, everybody. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but just as we were going through the service, I felt like there were a few things that I just wanted to talk about. So, when Michael's mom died, that was a really, really hard time. And, you know, it was something that almost felt unbearable at times, but, you know, I always kind of took it for granted, honestly, that, you know, like the six of us, me, Carter, Michael, Kennedy, Susanna, and Nathan would always be together through it. And so when Michael died, it felt like just the world fell apart, you know? And honestly, there are times where I've just been feeling so many conflicted things. That's kind of the reason I didn't want to speak at first, was because I just didn't know like how I could put everything that was going up here into words to say today. But something that kind of came to me as the service was going on, and a piece of advice that I'd just like to share with you all, is that please just be honest with how you share about Michael. Don't feel like you have to share only good things, or that you can't bring yourself to talk about the hard things, because honestly, there are some days where I'm just so happy that I met Michael and knew him and that I got to be with him for as long as I did, and there are other days where I'm just so mad that he left us. But all of those things show just how much I loved him and how much I will always love him for the rest of my life, and how much we all will. And so before I end, I just wanted to share a small story, one of my favorite memories with Michael. And this happened this past summer, actually, when me, my brother Carter, and my dad went with Uncle John, Nathan, and Michael on a boys' camping trip. And it was one of the best trips ever, even though it totally rained on us the last day we were there and was totally miserable. But one of the first days we were there, we went out and bought or rented a kayak because there was a lake by the campsite and we wanted to go out and go on the lake. And it just so happened that me and Michael were the first to go. And we just got to row out into the middle of the lake and just look at the beautiful views. And I honestly cannot tell you what we were talking about because I don't remember, but it was just fun. It was a good time. We just talked and we looked at the view and we admired the place we were in, and it was just so peaceful and beautiful. And then, of course, at one point we were daring each other to jump into the lake, and I lost, so I had to jump in, and the water was so cold. It was horrible, and I think I got like an allergic reaction to the water or something because it was so cold. But it was always good with Michael, and that's one of the memories that I'm always going to remember of him. Thank you.
So me and Kennedy weren't planning on speaking, but I guess we are. So me and Michael had a unique relationship. We went to school together. We were in the same grade, and we were family friends, so we never really acknowledged each other at school. But then we would just go over to the Ball's house, and we would just go our separate ways, watch TV. He introduced me and my brother to The Flash, and we loved it. And we were always like, Michael, what's gonna happen next? And he would never tell us, and it always made us so mad. I think one of my favorite memories of Michael was Halloween one year. Me and Kennedy decided that us and Michael were going to go do Halloween together. And it was the best Halloween ever. It was my favorite Halloween that I've ever done. And I miss Michael because he was my school buddy. And I always thought that I would have him with me every year, even if we weren't in the same classes. I just knew that he would be right next to me.
So my name's Kennedy, and Michael was basically like another older brother to me. We had many common interests. A thing that we liked to do both was baking and cooking together. And one of my favorite memories with Michael was in December when we were cooking a dinner for Susanna's 21st birthday. We made a couple of dinners before for our family, such as homemade burgers and pizza. But this time we were making a pesto pasta dish with with fresh pasta. And I remember seeing it in TV shows that they always put a crap ton of salt in the pasta water. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. And I didn't tell Michael because I didn't think it would be relevant. But then later on, after we cooked some of the pasta, he tasted it and he said, is this pasta really salty to you or no? And in the back of my mind, I'm like, no, it tastes fine. So I said, no, I think it's fine. And then he said, are you sure? Did you put any salt in there? I'm like, no. And he's like, are you sure? I just still denied because I know he knew in the back of his head, but I just denied because I was kind of embarrassed. And I was hoping I didn't ruin the dinner. But it turned out that the dinner was really good. So it was a success. But one of the things I'll probably miss the most about Michael is the memories I knew that we would have made. Like Haley said, we did Halloween together, and I think that brought the three of us pretty close. And we joked around and saying, when we are able to drive, we should all just get Disneyland passes and just hang out at Disney for a day. Or when I'm in a sophomore year and they're juniors, we all plan out to hang out and eat lunch once a week at Boca Burger or something. But now we can't do that, but I'm sure Haley and I will still do it just in the memory of Michael. And I feel like he left too soon before I was able to truly know him.
Anybody else?
I can only hope to capture some of the, amazing things about Michael, including trying to speak, in the way that he would, because he was amazing at that. Thank you. Thanks. I just kind of wanted to share just a little thing that an older sister, would share about a brother. So I don't know, and growing up was rough with two little brothers, I gotta tell you guys, but I have super fond memories, even though annoying at the time when, Nathan or Michael would both barge into my room, unannounced. So once Michael got his own room, I made it a habit to repay him the favor. And, of course, being Michael, he tolerated it. He, never once said, get out of my room or you're annoying me, which is, only a testament to how kind he treated everyone. So I think that it's really important to live in the way that Michael would have wanted us to. So I think this is a great first start, having people come up and talk about things, because that is truly the only way to make things normalize. And I think it's really important going forward that we all kind of carry on that new tradition of, telling people how we really feel, because that's the only way that we will be able to, grow together and move forward through things like this. And I think it's just really important to stay connected. So if that's anything, if we're going to take away anything from this, I just think that it's, like Jackson said, to be more honest, to be open, to listen. And that's what I think Michael would want. And so, I love that we're beginning and we will keep carrying that out in his name. Thank you.
Anybody else? John, I think, is that you?
Yeah, thank you all for sharing. And before Adam comes up to close us, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's in the room and everybody that's with us also on Zoom, either now or even watching us this later, who have just surrounded us with your love and helped us make it through the way that, as much as we've made it through so far. The notes, the prayers, the love, the cookies, all the different ways that you've contributed and supported us. And I just feel like, this is a parent's worst nightmare to have it happen, but the presence of all of you and Jesus walking together with me has made it possible for me to keep. It's funny, I wrote this yesterday to a couple people that I feel like as much as anybody could be thriving when they've lost their own child to suicide, I feel like I'm thriving. And so again, I'm thankful to you. But we had so many plans. That's what I told Michael that day, and I've been telling him almost every day since then. Michael, we had so many plans, so many great plans. I know he had plans with many of you. I know I had some plans with him. I know he had many other plans. Someone even shared with me that he did share with them, and I don't know how old he was at that point, that he said he would run for president. And actually, I could see him doing it. He was growing into, he was 6'1", and I think he was going to keep growing, and he looked really good in a suit, and he was just a compelling speaker. And he was even a compelling speaker as a kindergartner, first grader. The teachers would tell me, Mrs. Goodman would say, during recess, he would walk around with the teacher and just talk. And she loved it because he was interesting to talk to at that age. There was just so much about Michael. I still have the chess set in the car. He got me back into chess. And for the rest of my life, when I play chess, I have the chess set because we would go out for special times. And sometimes he would want to bring the chess set out and we'd play. And he would joke with me that, if you're a coach and you see two guys running to first base and one of them has perfect form and the other has terrible form, but they make it in the same time, who do you want to pick? Because I would beat him at chess and he'd go, the smart coach will pick the guy with bad form because you can coach him into having better form, right? And he knew that he would get better than me someday, and I knew he would. We had so many plans, and I have so many memories, just too much to share right now, but I just think I'll close with this last memory. And Ken reminded me of it when he spoke. About a year after his mom died, Michael came up to me and he said, Dad, I think I need to take a break from God for a while. And I told him, that's okay, Michael. And he said, I told God, I need to take a break from you for a while. And I think he said back to me, that's okay, Michael. You can take a break and I'll be here waiting for you when you're ready. And I know that he was. I know that he is. And I know that's where Michael is now. Thank you.
Well, we're coming to the end of our service, but it's not the end of our grieving process. For many of us, the grief feels so big, it may fill a room or fill all of our lives, and we can't seem to see around it and don't know where we go from here. But as we've heard, the goal isn't to lock it up, put it away, and hide it. The goal in life is to talk about it and share it. And what happens over time is the grief that feels enormous begins to get smaller, but not go away. It actually can become part of our life. It becomes a significant part of how we've been shaped by Michael, and the hurts and the love, they all get mixed in together, and it shapes us in a really healthy, positive way. And so though it feels really big right now, that's not the end of the story. And so I think we need to take Ken's words to heart, to fill each other's love tank, to bake cookies in honor of Michael, to share stories, the hard ones, but the funny ones as well, the ways that he always figured out how to win games or whatever it may be. We're going to put a link in the slideshow for ways that you can watch this service and remember stories, the recording for this service. But I think it's important also to remember this pain bucket and Michael's Eagle Scout project that he started working on. Michael wanted to care for other teenagers who are struggling with depression and struggling with suicide. And so I think the best thing that we can do is, one, ask for help if we're struggling, because people don't know necessarily. There are resources here to help reach out. You can talk to me, you can talk to Ken, you can talk to anybody here. We're gladly here to help you, to listen, to resource you with other people. There are many of you online right now who are struggling with depression, and you're not alone in this. And so it may feel like a monumental task to say, hey, I'm hurting right now. But it can be simply as that. That's all you need to say. And on the flip side, we can also ask each other, how are you really doing? Not just how are you doing, what's up, the sky's up, but how are you really doing? And then pause and be available, as Mr. Ruzon said, and just to listen. No, I really want to hear how you're really doing. And as Ken so helpfully said, that sharing that actually lightens the pain bucket. It lowers it back down. It may still be there, but it's okay. It's okay because we have people around us. You see the people around us online, here in this room, at school, family members. There are people that want to walk with us in this together. So let me close with just a final prayer. Let's breathe in and breathe out. God, we trust in your presence here with us. Even when we have pushed you away, you are still with us. Even when we turn our backs on you, you still love us. Lord, we ask that you would shepherd us through these difficult times and lead us into a place of peace and abundance, because God, you are with us, and those things hold all together. And so God, we thank you for Michael's life, for the laughter, the sarcasm, the joy, his coachability, all of these things, the ways he's touched our lives. The gift that he was for us. And so God, we pray for John and Susanna and Nathan, for all the Zells and his rest of his family and each one of us here. God, give us comfort, give us peace, and give us grace. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I want to end with just a final blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen.